Fury bubbling over in Guangdong province. Riot police charged into a factory town crowded with migrant workers after thousands torched government buildings and smashed police vehicles. It all began after security forces pushed a pregnant woman to the ground in a Friday sweep when they were trying to clear the streets of hawkers or street vendors. The uprisings have been dominating the headlines. The Arab Spring has turned the Arab Summer. I'm joined by Laurence Brahm, founder of the Himalayan Consensus Institute. We'll talk about the Himalayan Consensus in a second. Laurence, great to have you in Hong Kong. Great to have you on the show.
Bernie,
what's going on in China there? I mean, the Chinese must be, the authorities must be very nervous.
Well, of course, you have very high inflation right now, and you have high labor costs and high costs of living. So you have a stress bubble. And when you have a stress bubble, anything can prick it.
Right.
And this is the main problem.
Right. Historically, the Chinese have always been able to put down uprisings because of the sheer, size of their forces. Is this going to be any different in your view? Do you think this will be solved when somebody comes in and pays the food bill?
I think they need to put down inflation. That's the core problem. Because if you see a pattern in many of the social disturbances, not only in China but also in the Middle East, there's a number of factors which play in. One, of course, is inflation. The other is lack of jobs. And when these two things come together, the intellectual frustration is added. Then you have social instability.
Yeah, but the Chinese have been raising wages. They've been mandating and legislating wage increases. They do care. Premier One has made it very, very clear he wants to take care of the people. He's not just going to let, come hell or high water, let market forces dictate who's rich and who's poor. They're trying to do something about it. You can't fault them on effort, can you?
No, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see increased stimulus package. You're going to see increased construction infrastructure projects, because these are the type of projects that employ people, but they're also the type of investments which do create inflation. And the ability of China to be able to manage this will be very much dependent on its ability to control resources at a proper price. This brings China to Africa because, of course, this is one of the major sources of all the resources which are going into the infrastructure investment.
Biggest investor, right? In Africa.
Biggest investor in Africa. In turn, a lot of the low-wage work is going to shift over to Africa. We're already seeing many factories pulling out of China because of labor costs and inflation and moving Bangladesh, Africa.
Is that becoming a quid pro quo, sort of a commensal relationship, though? Because, the press has made a lot of hay about, how China goes there, takes things like oil and doesn't really care about, tyrannical dictatorships and kind of leaves a scorched earth when it comes to the impact of their money there.
That leaves Africa between the Washington Consensus, which is aid conditioned upon political conditions, or the Beijing Consensus, which is trading aid for resources. And so over the past couple of months, I've been working with a team of NGOs in Africa. We've launched African Consensus, which is really calling for protecting ethnic, tribal, local identity through sustainable business, calling for changes in the financial structure to support grassroots businesses, and those businesses in turn give back to the community and protect the environment.
So China's coming to the table. They're waking up. They're smelling the roses and realizing it's not a one-way thing then.
That's going to be the challenge for them.
Okay. And finally, tell me about the Himalayan Consensus. You've been consensus building a lot.
We're doing a lot of consensus building. We're looking for alternate models for economic development. The Himalayan Consensus was one that we did up in the Himalayan Plateau, again, working with grassroots levels, protecting local culture through sustainable business. What we're calling for is not aid, but trade, supporting local businesses that in turn can support their communities. One of the major causes of violence is ethnic strife or ethnic groups competing for resources.
Right. And you've got, okay, so let's go through the list one more time before we wrap up here. You have Washington Consensus, you got the Beijing Consensus, African Consensus, and now you got the Himalayan Consensus. Are we all consensual now? Are we all consensus now?
We're going to be moving for a global consensus, and you'll be seeing that launched at the Durban climate change talks this December. Because what is happening is many NGOs, many social action groups are coming together and saying we have to have a new approach, a new reform, a new economic model. Global consensus. All right. That's it.
Take it easy and breathe slowly up there on the plateau, okay? I hear the oxygen's kind of thin.
Thanks, Bernie.
Good to see you, my friend. Laurence Brahm, founder, Himalayan Consensus Institute. A final look at how the markets are stacking up today. Adam, we're waiting 4 minutes and 20 seconds.